Today, I'm back with another mega physical media collecting video for you all. We're talking all the Blu-rays, 4Ks, DVDs I watched in the entire month of April. Yes, I'm going to go through every single title, the ones I actually put in my player and watched all the way through, give you my thoughts and recommendations on every single title there. And of course, as a bonus towards the end, I'll also let you know the theatrical releases I saw and also any streaming titles I checked out too. But before we get into that, of course, if you love collecting just like me and watching movies, go ahead and mega blockbust that like and subscribe. That way, keep you entertained and up to date on all the latest physical media topics. And leave in the comments below what were some of your favorite titles you actually watched in the month of April. But let's go ahead and get into this pile now. First up, we have the classic The Parent Trap from Disney. Yes, a Disney Movie Club exclusive, and I did not know what to expect out of this one. I actually got this through some reward points on Disney Movie Insiders, and it was complete blind buy, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. So, really sweet story with these two siblings that basically switch families and kind of trick the parents, and then try to make their parents fall back in love. So, it's just a really heartwarming, very charming kind of story. And even though it's a very classic film, I think it still keeps up to today. So definitely recommend anybody checking this one out for a good family movie. All right, next up, we are going to have, yes, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Yes, I plugged this one back in. I wanted to rewatch the movie in preparation for my Ghostbusters ranking stream, and I enjoyed watching this one again. It's actually my probably personal favorite Ghostbusters movie. I just like how it gets a little bit darker, a little bit more serious. I do like the new characters they bring in. Paul Rudd is fantastic, and then some of the characters just have so many funny lines and moments and just so many geometry jokes in there for y'all. I don't know, there was just something about this movie. I think it freshened up the Ghostbusters enough, but still felt enough like the old classic Ghostbusters, especially with all the cameos they had. I don't know, there was just something about this story that stuck with me, and I really enjoyed it. So, yes, happy to watch that one again. Next up, some Kino Lorber titles I got in that I was able to watch was Kindergarten Cop with Arnold. First time watching this one, and I had a great time with it. I mean, it's Arnold as an undercover cop, basically as a teacher, and it's just so funny teaching these kindergarteners. Just so many comedic gold moments. It's a really nice family movie as well, very heartwarming. But then there are some thrilling action sequences in there. So, yes, definitely a great movie. Highly recommend this one. Kino Lorber did a fantastic job on that. All right, next up, another Kino Lorber title. We have to have the Monster Squad. It's my first time actually watching this one as well, and this was cool. It was like the Goonies, but with the Universal classic monsters. So it was just super fun to see this one. Another good family movie, in my opinion. This is kind of gateway horror. It's going to get people more excited about learning about these classic monsters. So I will take that all day, every day. So really appreciated this release, and also it came with a documentary in there, Wolfman's Got Nards, which was awesome. It was really cool to hear them talk about the Monster Squad from all these different perspectives and the people that worked on the movie and just the fandom, how it became a cult classic. It was just awesome. So for the documentary alone, I'd recommend both the movie in there. You can't get better than that. That was a great, just back to back watch for me. Had a wonderful, wonderful time. All right, next up, we gotta have another Kino Lorber title, which just had the Slippy, but that's okay. We have The Usual Suspects, another blind buy for me. All these Kino Lorber titles were first time watches, and I did like this one. There was a good mystery to it. It was very thrilling. It had me guessing the whole time, and the ending was pretty shocking and surprising. Now, I don't know if this would keep up on rewatches after knowing the twist ending, but I don't know. It was a well put together film, and at least a one time watch is definitely worthy of this one. So, yeah, really, really good. I'm happy. I think I scored on all the Kino Lorber titles this time around. Not a bad one in the bunch. All right, next up, out of my Hitchcock 20 classic movies collection I picked up in Las Vegas, I actually plugged in disc one, and you can see that there's, some classic titles there. The Lady Vanishes, I watched that one, black and white, very, very classic. I don't know, it wasn't that exciting to me, so I didn't super love it. And then I tried The Farmer's Wife, but I think it was a silent film actually. There wasn't any talking in it, and those kind of movies just they bore me to tears. I can't do silent films like that, so I just skipped past that one. I didn't check out the other movie in there, but I did check out the two Hitchcock. I think it was Hitchcock Presents episodes in there with the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and also what the other one on there. It was like a vase one. They were actually both pretty good episodes, so I would recommend definitely the TV show of Alfred Hitchcock. Actually, I think he had a couple different series, but yeah, those two episodes were pretty good. But the movies, I could have taken or leave them. All right, next up, we gotta have Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I've been prepping for my Guy Ritchie filmography stream, so I had to check this one out for the first time. And not really my cup of tea. This is very Guy Ritchie edited together, where it's jumping back between scenes and characters and playing around with time a little bit, and it's all over the place. So those movies kind of get me a little confused. Now there's a good cast in there, like Jason Statham's in this one, but I don't know, it just didn't really hit the spot. I had its moments, but not when I'm like, "Oh, I need to always rewatch this one." But if you like the movie like Snatch, I think it's pretty similar to that one. Just maybe not as good? Mm. Alright, next up, we had a rewatch here of True Romance from that nice Arrow set right here. I absolutely love this set. Just the packaging is phenomenal. I always talk about this one on the channel, but this movie was great on the rewatch. I was so happy I rewatched this one again, and it was in preparation for a stream, Boutique Talk with Steelbooks Obsessed. We just went wild on this movie and had a great time chatting about it. But just every time I watch True Romance, I fall more and more in love with it. It's written by Quentin Tarantino, so you got the snappy dialogue and just the clever characters in there, and the outstanding cast. You got so many people in here. The list goes on forever and ever. This movie is awesome, and it's directed by Tony Scott, the Top Gun director. So Quentin Tarantino, Tony Scott, amazing cast. You can't do better than that. I just love how it's kind of charming and whimsical in a way too, and just ends so sweetly. So yeah, really enjoy that. All right, next up, we gotta have Snatch. Yes, if I'm preparing for Guy Ritchie, I gotta watch Snatch. This was actually a second time viewing, so a rewatch, but first time on a 4K disc for me, and I thought the 4K would really improve this one. And I don't know, I still can't get with these kinds of Guy Ritchie movies. There's Guy Ritchie movies I love, and I will get to some of those later. But the ones, once again, with playing with all the different character stories and time and jumping back and forth, it just gets me too lost. Now, there is great acting talent in here. I think the Brad Pitt moments are probably my favorite, but Jason Statham's good as always. But once again, just it's missing that one thing for me where I'm like, I need to rewatch this one, keep rewatching it. I just don't know what it is. But some people say this is their favorite Guy Ritchie movie. It's their go-to. It's still not clicking for me. I just don't know why. All right, next up, once again on this Guy Ritchie journey, we have Swept Away with Madonna. Now, this is way different than any Guy Ritchie film I've seen before. It's kind of like Triangle of Sadness, if you've seen that one, where you have different social class systems, but then this two people get stranded together on an island, and then it kind of switches the roles, and you see, who is valuable with their skills on the island. You got Madonna in there. You got an unlikely romance that forms. So it's a little bit spicy in there, just the right amount for me. So I kind of like Swept Away with the social commentary it had. So yeah, and it's a Guy Ritchie film you wouldn't necessarily expect from him. All right, next up, we got to have one that did not came with a case, unfortunately, just came like that, and the disc art in the side. I need to get a Blu-ray case for this. I will do that eventually, but it came with Rock and Rolla and Swordfish. Didn't watch Swordfish yet, but I did watch Rock and Rolla, and that one is a typical Guy Ritchie type of movie. Once again, a lot of kind of almost dark comedy in there, British humor. Uh, I don't know. I might like it a little bit more than Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but it's still that kind of flavor, that same theme. And once again, it's just these types of movies don't really stick with me for some reason. It's a well-made movie, just like the other ones. Once again, there's just something about them that, I don't know, just doesn't stick for me. But who knows? Maybe I'll rewatch it again. All right, next up, we gotta have oh, yes, ones I will definitely rewatch from Guy Ritchie, the Sherlock Holmes, the double combo pack right here, little collection, because you get the first one and then you get Game of Shadows in there. And I really like these Sherlock Holmes movies. They're really fun. I love kind of the slow down thinking moments where Robert Downey Jr. as Sherlock Holmes and he's kind of thinking about, okay, what move am I going to make? And the fighting sequences are really cool. And I like seeing that. I like to see how he pieces mysteries together as well. Just that thought process I think is really intriguing. I think Robert Downey Jr. just gives an amazing performance in both the movies. It just works for me. This kind of Guy Ritchie film really works. Very entertaining, really cool action moments as well. Had a great time with both of these, so we'll definitely rewatch those. All right, continuing, we gotta have King Arthur. Yes, in the Legend of the Sword. Oh my gosh, this movie is awesome. Yes, I will say that. You got the Sons of Anarchy guy right here. Always forget the name, but you know who I'm talking about. Awesome fantasy adventure story. If you know the King Arthur story, you kind of know what this one's about. But there's just some amazing film techniques in here. I just love the camera work. I think the visual effects are really nice. The action moments are outstanding. I love also the like training montages at the beginning and seeing how this person kind of develops into this warrior and then eventually the king and all this stuff is really really cool. It's kind of like the Rocky of the fantasy adventure genre, I guess you could say. But really, really cool movie. I was blown away by this one. This is one of my favorite Guy Ritchie films now. Very entertaining. I think most people will get a kick out of this one. All right, next up we gotta have City Slickers from Shout Select. This was one recommended by the Collectors Club, and this movie's tough for me because on one hand, I did not care for the humor. It's not my type of comedy. It's slapsticky, kind of spoofy comedy. I'm not really into that style, but I actually like the story where this guy's having a midlife crisis and he needs to go on a Western retreat, become a cowboy to kind of rediscover himself with his buddies, and it makes for some charming and heartfelt moments in there. And I love how the ending ties it all together. So I like the movie overall, just the comedy fell flat for me. Yeah, it's a mixed bag. All right, next up, we gotta have another Collectors Club recommendation, and we got Gifted. I really like this movie with Captain America, right? Chris Evans. He's really good in the role as basically, I guess, the uncle to this kid right here. Phoebe Grace, is it? No, no, no. McKenna Grace, I think it is. That plays Phoebe in Ghostbusters. Yes, that person. She does really good in here too, but she's very gifted in this movie. It's a really heartwarming story where he's taking care of her, but then the mom tries to step in. Chris Evans' mom to try to take control of, I guess, the granddaughter. And yeah, there's a courtroom drama, but then there's also funny moments in here. So it's a sweet story. Oh, there's a romance here with Chris Evans and a teacher character. So it just kind of is a crowd pleaser. It kind of hits all these different spots that I think most people will get something out of it. So Gifted, very, very good. I would definitely highly recommend this one. This is definitely an easy watch. All right, next up, we are going to have, yes, some Disney Movie Club exclusives. My big giant box came in of these, and my friend recommended this one, Rocket Man. This is one he really liked. And I saw this one. It was charming for what it was. Once again, it's kind of like some goofy humor in there, but you may laugh if you're into that. But I like the story. It's kind of like a Sheldon, really smart type of character that gets to go, travel and go in a rocket, but he's just a goofball and makes all these mistakes, and you pretty much are just laughing at the shenanigans. But yeah, Rocket Man, a pretty solid Disney family movie. No complaints there. All right, next up, we got to have Man of the House, which is a really, really good one. This one has Chevy Chase and then Jonathan Taylor Thomas, right? The guy from Tool Time, one of the kids. And yeah, I think this was a good one too. This was another heartwarming story, good for the whole family. I think Chevy Chase is on point in this movie. So yeah, I really like this one. Definitely check it out. All right, next up, we got to have More Guy Ritchie films with the man from Uncle. You got Henry Cavill in here, who is great in the role. This is basically a spy thriller of sorts. And yeah, it's really entertaining. If you like James Bond style movies, you're gonna like this one. There's definitely some moments you'll laugh. There's some thrilling moments. It just has all the good ingredients of like a spy thriller. So really enjoyed The Man from Uncle. One of my other favorite Guy Ritchie films. All right, next up, we gotta have The Gentleman from Guy Ritchie. So I gave this one a rewatch. This was already in my collection. I've seen it a couple times before, but giving it a rewatch, I actually quite like this one. And this is kind of similar to Snatch, where once again it plays around with the different character stories and jumps in time. And so you think it would lose me, and sometimes it almost does. But because it feels more modern, I think I can keep up with it a little bit more. Plus, this cast is great with, I believe it's Bradley Cooper in there, and then a lot of other well-known actors. So I think I was connecting more with the different characters in this story. I think there were some more intense moments in there, and some fun, like kind of almost music video sequences with like the toddlers they call themselves, and there's like fighting stuff, and I don't know, you got to see it to know what I'm talking about. But yes, I actually like The Gentleman. So this is definitely going to be in the middle of my favorite Guy Ritchie films. All right, next up, we're going to have another Guy Ritchie one, but one you wouldn't expect from him, The Covenant, that stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Dyer Slim. Darslium, something like that. Sorry, mispronouncing the name, but he gives a wonderful performance. Wish he was recognized with an award for it. But really, really intense movie, a military operation movie that just, oh my gosh, gets you with the feels. You got these two characters that basically got to work together to get each other home, right? And back to each other's families. And it goes back and forth. You don't know how it's going to end. Oh gosh, it is. It's so intense. Such suspenseful moments, and the ending's phenomenal. Really, really great. A military operation movie. Highly recommend it for Memorial Day. All right, next up, we got once again some more Disney Movie Club exclusives, Tom and Huck. Remember watching this one as a kid. Happy to give it a rewatch. Just kind of a fun adventure story with these two friends here trying to find treasure. And yeah, it's a delightful family movie, as simple as that. And once again, you got that Tool Time character right there, right? The kid. I think he's really good in these Disney family movies. I wish he would do more these days. But all right, next up we got A Kid in King Arthur's Court. Yes, this is a guy from, is it Kevin from American Pie? I think it is. But he's really good in this movie. It's like a baseball kid gets sucked back in time to, King Arthur's court. We already had another King Arthur movie in this pile, but this one much more family friendly because it's Disney. But you even got Kate Winslet in here. You have Daniel Craig, the James Bond actor, in here. So it's really cool to see all these people when they're younger. And it's just, once again, a delightful kind of adventure fantasy tale that the whole family can enjoy. So really like this one. All right, next up, we got to have The Kid. This is the first time watch for me on this one. This one has Bruce Willis, and I don't know what to say about this one because it was a really cool aspect of him, I guess, meeting himself as a young kid and him trying to figure out, I don't know, kind of, what led to where he's at in life and certain breaking moments. And it's very psychological in a way, but it's also presented in a family friendly manner. Then you got a romance in there with Bruce Willis and then this other lady, and it's really sweet. Some heartfelt moments. So The Kid, I would recommend it. You know what you get with these Disney family movies, all pretty solid. Now to get into a couple Blu-rays I actually got rid of this month, and there was two that I just did not care to see again, so no point to have in my collection anymore. First up was Out of Darkness, which was like a horror caveman title. It was a foreign language film, but I didn't get the language they were speaking. It just wasn't that interesting to me. It was a little boring. It wasn't that horrific. Didn't really scare me at all. Just kind of dragged, and I was checking the time, and I just didn't want to watch it anymore. But I got through it once, just don't need to see it again. So Happy Out of Darkness is gone. Next up, Black Sheep. This was a Collectors Club recommendation. And I thought this one was going to be a lot funnier than it actually was. You had, of course, Chris Farley in here and David Spade. You think they would be an awesome combo like with Tommy Boy, but it's kind of like Tommy Boy, but just not as good. I wasn't laughing that many times. I just didn't care for the characters in this one. The story was just kind of lame and unrelatable to me. And just because it wasn't hitting me with the humor, not my style of humor, I just had to get rid of Black Sheep. So those two titles, boom, gone out of here. So now to get into the theatrical releases I saw, and first up we got Immaculate starring Sydney Sweeney, and this is a story you have seen quite a few times where you have a nun that gets pregnant and then the church is up to all sorts of shenanigans and there's a weird mystery going on. But what I liked about this movie, of course, is Sydney Sweeney. I think she gave a really solid performance here. You were invested in her character. There was enough intense sequences here where it really kept you on your toes and it kept you guessing till the very end. And then the ending did get a little twisty. So because of the solid ending and Sydney Sweeney, I actually quite delighted in this horror movie. I would recommend it if you're a horror fan. Next up, we got The First Omen, which I cannot recommend to anybody. I know some people liked it out there, but I thought Immaculate was just way better. The First Omen felt like it was trying to be the First Omen movie, trying to copy it in a way, but it just failed on every level. I didn't care about the characters in this one. Thought it was super predictable. I thought it was boring. I thought the pacing was off, and I didn't really care about the end. And it just was not working for me. So, because I had the Omen name attached to it, I had higher standards for it, and it just let me down. So, that's why I would pick Immaculate over The First Omen. All right, next up, we got The Monkey Man here. Yes, this was like an action revenge story. Some people were pitching it as another John Wick movie, and it kind of was, but kind of not. It got more spiritual and philosophical than I thought it was going to. It was very artsy and kind of felt like an A24 film, even though it wasn't. So it definitely was really, really out there, but it still has the cool action moments in there, still gets super bloody and gory when it needs to, even has some dark humor here and there. So I think overall it was a pretty decent watch. I wasn't really bored most of the time with that one. Next up, I cannot say that about this movie everybody else loved besides me, and that being Civil War, which I can't get down with this director's movies. I think his name's Alex Garland. I thought Men was one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and then Civil War just failed for me. It didn't really get ambitious enough, I guess you could say. It didn't really choose a side in the political landscape today. Didn't really even talk about the political landscape today. It was much more fantasy like, and they had different areas of the United States as different alliances, but then it didn't really explain the alliances and why these alliances were first created. Like, how did everybody get on their own sides? And so there wasn't enough background information for me, and it starts off very boring, and it's really about just a group of journalists going to take pictures of certain war moments, but you would expect there to be more war in here. It's a lot more kind of walkie-talkie road trip movie to get to Washington D.C. to get an interview, and that to me is just kind of more the boring side of the war stuff. I want to be in the action. Like, let me see what's going on with the war moments. And so it wasn't enough action for me. It dragged for me, and I didn't think it was as great of a thinking movie as some people thought it was. And it wasn't work. It didn't go far enough for me, and then it wasn't fun enough for me. So when you do a movie like that that is very unrealistic, you better hit me with the action, and it just didn't give enough. So I'm probably in a opposite opinion of everybody else with that one, because I know a lot of people love Civil War, but just was not feeling it. Next up, we got Abigail, which I absolutely love this movie. Vampire Ballerina, by the Radio Silence people that did the newer Scream movies. This movie was awesome. Great cast of characters. You cared about them. You wanted to see what happened. It was very fun. It was bloody. It was gory. It was interesting. There was twists and turns in this one. And I mean, the only way to really make this movie better is if they didn't have the trailer and it was really surprising. But other than that, this movie was pretty much perfect to me. I just had a blast with this one. So if you're a horror fan, check it out. It's definitely on the fun side of horror, more horror comedy. Really enjoyed it. Next up, we got the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Once again, you guys know I'm preparing for that Guy Ritchie stream, so I had to check this one out, of course. You got Henry Cavill back again, but you also have Alan Richardson in this one who completely steals the show, and it's just a awesome Guy Ritchie movie. Kind of think Man of Uncle combined with Operation Fortune. You got that dark comedy in there, those really cool action moments, and taking place in the war setting. I just found fascinating. Solid production design, just everything was really working for this movie. So, wish more people saw this one. Don't let it skip under your radar as well. Next up, we got Boy Kills World, which nobody saw, and I didn't even know what this one was about. I went in completely blind to this movie, no trailer, no nothing. And this was an A24 film with Bill Skarsgård, and this is a revenge story right here. Almost like, I guess, kind of think like Kickboxer or The Karate Kid, that kind of setup where he has a mentor train this kid. Kid grows up and now wants to take revenge, but it does get more complicated than that. It does get more twisty and turny than that. It is over the top violence, but there's definitely enough here to really be unique and different. Like the character is deaf and mute, which gives a little bit of twist to it because there's narration going on with what's going on in his mind and his thoughts. So really unique premise. I think it executes pretty well. So I was happy I saw that one. Don't miss out on that either. All right, next up, one I think you could probably miss out on is Challengers. Oh my gosh. Wow. I did not like this movie. Once again, it just doesn't go far enough. Like Civil War didn't go far enough. This movie didn't go far enough. It was basically a tennis love triangle. You got Zendaya in the middle of it all. I thought it was going to be more spicy than what it was. Like there's a couple spicy moments in there, but not as much spiciness with Zendaya. Like I wanted more from Zendaya, you know what I mean? And it just didn't go that. And then if you judge it as a sports drama, yeah, there's some drama in there, but once again, I really wasn't connecting to the characters. The sports was filmed pretty nicely, like good camera angles with the tennis matches. So some of the moments were thrilling, but I don't know. It just, not my type of sports movie. I more like inspirational sports stories, and this was very more heavy drama, but it just wasn't as entertaining as I want either. And I thought like King Richard was a phenomenal movie. I thought that was a really good tennis sports movie that was a drama, and this just didn't live up to that because this movie just didn't do enough for me, and I was disappointed because I was actually looking forward to this one. I can say, yeah, perfectly fine skipping on this one. All right, now to get into the streaming stuff I checked out. And first up, we got Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping, which has that Lonely Island crew, the SNL, Andy Samberg, just giving it his all from a comedic standpoint. Kind of looks docu style like The Office, but you got some fun moments in here. I like the raunchy comedy parts to it. The silly spoof stuff I don't care as much for, but I did like the story. You got this comeback for this musical artist with his group of friends, which I thought was really endearing. And you have some raunchy, hilarious parts and some music you just not gonna forget. So I did like this one. I think most people will get a kick out of it. Next up, we got Chef, the Jon Favreau movie, and I think he's really excellent in this one. But this is a very heartwarming story where you have a chef that leaves the professional restaurant business to basically start his own business in a food truck with his buddy and his kid, and you see that he just gets closer with all of them, and it's a really heartwarming story. And I really like that one. I don't think enough people talk about Chef, so yeah, definitely get your eyes on that one if you haven't seen it. I think it's a crowd pleaser. All right, next up we got Dirty Work, which was another title in the Collectors Club recommendations for SNL, and I thought this one was actually pretty funny. It's basically this person that starts a business doing dirty deeds done dirt cheap, right? Taking revenge on people, and it leads to some funny moments. So I actually really kind of like that one. It had some laugh out loud scenes, so definitely recommend Dirty Work. Right, next up, we got to have Almost Heroes, another Collectors Club SNL recommendation with Chris Farley, and also was it Matthew Perry, right? The Friends guy, Chandler. And they were great in this movie together. It's like a historical Lewis and Clark opposite team and they're competing with each other to, I guess, complete manifest destiny, discover the Pacific Ocean first. And you get all sorts of, goofy slapstick shenanigans in there. So I thought that one worked decently, a lot better than Black Sheep. It's not one I absolutely love, but there's a couple laugh out loud moments in there. All right, next up, a movie definitely for my comedy lovers is going to be McGruber, another SNL recommendation. And this movie is freaking hilarious. Oh my gosh, nonstop laughter. It's so stupid in some moments, but it's so funny too. In some moments, you'll just have your jaw drop. I mean, the celery, that's all I need to say. Oh my gosh, definitely goes there, and I love it. Very raunchy. All right, next up, we got The Librarian, The Quest for Spear, another Collectors Club recommendation in there. And this is a TV kind of movie, but it has an Indiana Jones vibe, adventure, fantasy, and it's decent for what it was. Kind of almost felt like a James Bond movie at some points too, with a love interest. So I had a good time with that one, if you don't mind the low budget. All right, next up, gotta have Rebel Moon Part 2, Zack Snyder's movie. And I saw this one, I thought it was gonna be hot garbage, and it was better than that. There's some fun action moments. Now, it is a complete Star Wars ripoff, so don't go in for a good story. The story's pretty trash. But once again, some of the visuals, the sounds that Zack Snyder is known for is in this movie. So I had a good time with that. I like his style of filmmaking. That shined through for me. If only this was a better story, I think we would have really had something there. All right, next up we had Aladdin. Yes, Guy Ritchie's Aladdin. Had to rewatch this one again, preparing for the filmography stream. And I like this live action remake. There's good singing in there. I like Will Smith as the genie. Uh, yeah, I had no problem, no issues with this one. Solid watch. Yeah, for a live action Disney remake, it's probably one of the best ones out there, if not number one. So, yeah, definitely would take this over some others. All right, next up, we got The Zone of Interest, which I wanted to watch during Oscar season because it was getting some nomination recognition, but I didn't get to it till now. Happy I finally checked it out. It's a foreign language film, and the premise is really horrific. You got a family household built right next to a camp in World War II, and so you just heard these horrific sounds coming across the yard. And so this family is living their everyday life while this horrific tragedy is happening just right on the other side of them. And oh my gosh, what a crazy premise for a movie like this. But I think the movie pulls it off with the sound design being phenomenal. It's really well directed. Visually, it's pretty stunning. And yeah, you'll know if you like this movie, if you're into that. Just be prepared to bring the tissues. I thought the ending was really powerful. So I think it's an important movie to see. I don't know if it's entertaining. I don't know if it's a movie you would want to rewatch again because, yeah, of what the premise was. But I think it's a movie that should be seen at least once in most people's life. Just bring the tissues with you. But next up, we got The Wall, which is another military operation kind of movie, but much more simple. It takes place in one setting where you have basically somebody pinned down by a sniper, and the sniper is just kind of messing with him. And you got to see how it kind of plays out, but it's very focused just on that one setting. So hopefully it doesn't bore too many people. I was kind of in between on it. Thought the ending was kind of like, don't know if I would have gone that way. But yeah, if you're into military movies, I think it's worth a watch. All right, next up, we had a couple family movies that I gave a rewatch to. We had Dora, The City of the Lost Gold, which actually I think is kind of underrated. I think this is a good family one. If you like the Dora TV show when you were a kid, you'll get some nostalgia feelings. But it's basically an adventure family story. And yeah, it was what it was. And yeah, if you like that stuff, I guess. Same with the next movie. We had The Adventures of Tintin, which was a Steven Spielberg style directed title. It was an animated film, though. I love the opening credits. So very, very kind of classic style with the John Williams music. I loved it. And the animation kind of tripped me out for a little bit, but then you get into a really cool treasure hunting story. And overall, I thought it was pretty solid. So happy to see that one. And then a streaming show I've been watching, and I think I've gotten through 5 seasons now, have been the Goldbergs, which I absolutely love this show. If you're into sitcoms, check this out. Or if you love 80s movies, check this out because every episode is like a reference to different 80s movies, and I was just blown away by this one. Plus, the family, the actors in this one are really entertaining. You're going to laugh a whole bunch. You're going to have good, heartfelt moments. It's just a perfect sitcom, in my opinion, and probably would make my top 10 list now for sitcoms. So, The Goldbergs, a delight. Check it out. You'll have a great time. But there we go. That was everything I watched in the month of April. Dang, I watched a whole lot. Wow, that was tough to keep track of. You guys let me know in the comments below, what did you watch in April? Of course, if you haven't already, did any of my watches stick out to you? And then, of course, besides having a great time talking the movies, if you haven't already, go ahead and blockbust that like and subscribe. That way it can keep you entertained and up to date on all future physical media watches and movie collecting and all that wonderful stuff we love to do on this channel, of course, and just make it a movie day. And if you love this topic, mega smash the next video right now. And thank you so much, my mega membership supporters. If you love talking and collecting movies, consider joining the Mega League of Film Fans through memberships to support content creation while gaining access to perks like shoutouts, exclusive videos, and future topic choices.